Folks, welcome to an all new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Wednesday episode. And what do we say on Wednesday episodes? We say, oh my God, you made it halfway through the week. Congratulations. You only have 2 more days until that sweet, sweet weekend. And from what I'm reading, this is Memorial Day. So allegedly, we say alleged before anything that we say nowadays. Allegedly, there is a 3-day weekend. So we are so close. I mean, we are so close to glory, folks. So hopefully this podcast can help you just shave another hour off until Friday happens. We have a great show for you today. We're going to do a pop culture roundup here at the beginning because I got a lot of like little tidbit stories to talk you through. And then after that, our guest, we got a fantastic guest. Her name is Nicole Rittenmeyer, and she is the director of the new ID Discovery series that premieres this Monday and Tuesday. It's called Sherry Papini, Caught in the Lie. It'll also be available to stream on Max. I think we call it HBO Max now. I always just call it HBO in my head, but you can stream it there as well. Now, the interesting thing about this docuseries, what makes it a little different, is that Sherry Papini actually participates in this. We'll get a little bit more into Sherry Papini's story after I do the pop culture roundup, just to refresh your memory. But this case is always kind of fresh in my mind. There was just a Hulu docuseries, kind of more from Keith, her ex-husband's point of view, that was released a little bit ago. And now this is Sherry for the first time ever saying a lot of things, you guys, saying a lot of things. This was a roller coaster of some emotions for me watching this, and they weren't all good, but I think it's a fantastic docuseries, very well put together. And what I see the director doing in this, they've done some things that I really have not seen in a docuseries. And one of those being they have Sherry, sorry to laugh, they have Sherry Papini participating in reenactments from her alleged abduction. It's completely fascinating, potentially horrifying, but at the same time, they're trying to help drudge up memories for her, and also almost under the guise of being exposure therapy, maybe. Anyway, so we'll get into that later in the show. There's a timestamp if you want to skip right to that, but exciting night for me. Don't usually go out much anymore, but went out tonight because a great online publication I subscribe to, Puck, which is a media company, really great articles on there. In fact, Matt Bellany, who was there tonight, he has a great podcast called The Town, and it is based on the Hollywood industry, TV and film. In fact, if you're a fan of Seth Rogen's The Studio on Apple TV Plus, which I am, he was on last week's episode in a very little funny role. But he's a big mover and shaker in Hollywood. And I got invited to go to this, it was like this kind of Puck night celebrating, like it's a lead up to the Emmys, right? But they had these fascinating conversations with some really amazing actors, but also showrunners and creators of their shows. I mean, the creators of The Handmaid's Tale was there. The showrunner of HBO's The Last of Us were there. I mean, Charlie Brooker, the creator of Black Mirror, was there. I mean, it was amazing. Parker Posey was there. Jason Segel, John Mulaney. It was so amazing. And I do this every day, and I say it at least 10 times per episode how much I geek out on this stuff. But sometimes when you're sitting behind a mic so much, you sometimes can I don't know, sometimes not the magic wears off, but you kind of get used to things. So it's so important, I have to remind myself to go to these things because you can get kind of re-inspired, and it kind of puts you in touch with what you love so much about this industry. Whether it be reality television or TV or film. I mean, there's so many aspects of this, and it just really puts me in touch with that kid I was in Kansas that just wanted to get his hands on everything, wanted to listen to everything, wanted to see and view every movie, every TV show. And like I always say, as you get older, you start to get taste and you realize I can't watch and see everything. And also, I don't want to watch and see everything. We want to watch things that speak to us, and we want to recommend those things to other people. So this is my job, is recommending things that have moved me. Will they move you? Who knows? That's the other thing I keep thinking about lately, too. is that we all don't like the same things, and that's okay. It's that kind of old adage of there is something out there for everybody. It's like it's finding your person in life, but it's also the same thing with TV shows or albums. It's like finding your show, the one that speaks to you. I mean, the one that I'm having a lot of hard time with lately is Summer House because I personally love it, but so many of my friends are not digging this season. Now, I will say tonight is the season finale of Summer House. I watched the episode today. There's a couple thoughts I have that we'll do on the Summer House recap on Friday. Wasn't my, I thought it could have been a stronger finale. I will say that. So, but what are you going to do? But it was a great, but I did see the trailer for the reunion and that looks really good. There is literally a bed theme. I mean, my God, just beg Paige to stay on Summer House. You don't need to keep doing bed related things to impress Paige. They made the reunion stage a gigantic bed, and like Andy comes out in a bathrobe. Like, just pay her more money. Like, don't keep doing the bed things, please. For the love of God, we get it. Don't like. I mean, it's just like you're gonna run the joke into the ground. And I have watched this past night's The Valley episode, and I also watched Janet and Jason Caperna on Watch What Happens Live. We'll be doing the Valley recap on Thursday. I cannot wait to talk about that. The first time I watched it through, I was like, it's kind of a so-so episode. But then the second time, I started getting those little kind of like, okay, this is kind of funny, or this is interesting to talk about. Jesse Lally is screaming into a pillow like a little girl. No offense to little girls out there. I know I have a big little girl listenership, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, oh, come on. Oh, you're screaming into a pillow. What kind of life coach is this? Like, oh, screaming into a. It gave me big Tom Sandoval vibes when he was doing the scream therapy last season on Vanderpump Rules. No bueno. Like, also, like, how do you sleep with yourself at night after you're like, did I do a scene where I was screaming to a pillow based on my life coach's recommendation? How do you, anyways. Back to tonight's event that I went to. It was really interesting. To the first one, they had the showrunners and the creators of the shows The Last of Us, Yellow Jackets, which today just got picked up for its fourth season. Now, I'm one of those people that did not dive into the third season. I've always said this. The first season of Yellow Jackets was some phenomenal television. The second season let me down in such a way and reminded me of the importance of it's hard, right? Like shows like that is that the first season of Yellow Jackets was so good that it got my brain working into overdrive and my imagination going. And I think it did that for a lot of people. And then the reality of the story that they were telling was so different than the story that I was coming up with in my head. Like it let me down in such a way. And the third season, I hear, kind of finds a better footing, and I just have not dived into it yet. But it doesn't really matter because it got a fourth season. It did good enough to get a fourth season. So they were there. The head guy from Black Mirror, which was really interesting to hear him talk, because he's saying like, listen, like some of the things that we do stories on, this show, we do stories of a far away future in terms of technology and, technology moving too fast in some ways. And now these things are actually happening, these things are, and these like things are happening that we've have story ideas for that we're like, we have to scrap that because that is actually happening now, which is so frightening in some ways. But also was so great to hear him talk because he said at the end of the day, a lot of people talk about the dystopian Twilight Zone nature of Black Mirror, but he also argued that this show is full of hope. This show is full of humanity. Like this technology is I've always said, in some ways bringing us further and further apart. But at the same time, you have all of these human stories of wanting connection, of wanting love. And if you have that, if you have all of us wanting some form of human connection and love, and not just, as he pointed out, people are now doing therapy on ChatGPT. Like how dark is that? Having AI do your therapy. And this is like all the rage now. People doing therapy on ChatGPT. They're going to find a way to monetize that even deeper. They're going to find a way to charge you $100 for an hour ChatGPT therapy session, which just reminds me, I have my therapy session today. Good times. Ah, man. So that, and then the Handmaid's Tales creator, they just had a big episode last night, and they used Taylor Swift's "Look What You Made Me Do," but it was off your Reputation, but it's the first little snippet we hear from Reputation Taylor's version. A lot of people are speculating when this comes out. Now, Taylor Swift there's a big rumor she's going to be at the American Music Awards next week. So we could get an announcement then for Reputation Taylor's version, but we got a snippet of this song in the Handmaid's Tale episode, and they talked about how that happened. And Elizabeth Moss, who is the lead actor in Handmaid's Tale, she also directed the episode, and they shot that scene without thinking that they were going to use that song. In no way did they even think they would be able to get that song, nor was it how they edited the piece, which is really interesting because the song fits really perfectly with the editing in that scene. And then Elizabeth Moss reached out to Taylor Swift and had some sort of relationship with her. And Taylor Swift is a fan of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu and gave them the rights to use that, which I thought was a little bit of an interesting tidbit. John Mulaney also was fascinating. He was also really good at dodging questions. There was a couple questions of like, would you ever take over for Lorne Michaels when he retires from SNL? And what would you do the first day? What would you get rid of? And he was like, I don't think there's anything to get rid of. He was really deft at dodging things. And they asked where Bill Hader was on the 50th anniversary special. And he was like, oh, no, we really miss Bill. Like, he didn't answer the question. He just kind of sidestepped things really brilliantly and in a very positive manner. But his show, Everybody's Live with John Mulaney, is live on Netflix every Wednesday night. I've watched every episode. I've never really talked about it much on this show. It is very weird. It would be a hard recommend. I personally love it, but it's like Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. Like, I go gaga for it, but because I love big swings, I love people that are doing something interesting, and it kind of puts the late night talk show format on its ear. He does it in such a peculiar, odd way. I mean, there's a couple notes I have just in terms of like the audience. It feels like the audience isn't mic'd well, or it's a cavernous space, so you don't get the immediacy of an audience. Sometimes you feel the warmth of an audience when you're watching live television, and you don't hear that with Everybody's Live. But I love how bizarre it is. He has some of the best guests, but he has them talk about a topic, not even a topical topic. They don't talk about the news. You know, they did an episode on dinosaurs a couple weeks ago. But he also has, like, usually week after week, musical guests that I love, but aren't mainstream, but like musical guests I personally love. And it's a weird show. And he was talking about it tonight, and he said, you know, the goal of the show is to make you a little uneasy. You know, like, it is to kind of turn things on its head, ear a little, whatever that phrase is, a little bit. You know, is that he was like, this is punk rock in a way, or this is like the Dada movement. You know, like, this is just a little weird. You know, it should be a little unsettling. It should be something that maybe sticks out a little bit. And I love the way he spoke about that. Now, Parker Posey, coming hot off this season of The White Lotus, and she was talking about her character, and that she was so thrilled that lorazepam, the medicine that her character takes, Victoria Ratliff, right? That there's merchandise now that says, what was said, live, laugh, lorazepam. She found all of this merchandise that they've made on Etsy, and she's thrilled about it. This Parker Posey, man, she is a kook, but I mean that in the best, most loving way. She is just a live wire. When she came out, her energy is just so amazing, and you could just tell she just seems like a blast, but also just a little out there, like actors can be. And I think sometimes actors, if you know any in your life, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Is they're a little left of center. They're a little in their head, but also exhibitionist at the same time. I remember just a couple actors when I would work at the day spa when they would come in. I remember Annette Bening was just so off in a weird way. And she's, you know, she portrays, like, in her acting, is just such a great source of strength and stability and fiery and passionate. And she was, you just tell those people that are off, you know, you're just like, they're in their own little world. Parker Posey seemed like her in her own little world, but in the best way. Now, Jason Segel from Shrinking on Apple TV Plus, I thought he was really great. He was just so honest. You know, he did How I Met Your Mother, and they did like, I think, close to 200 episodes. And then he said, after that, I went in trying to do a dramatic actor and do dramatic film work. And, what was that film where he played the author? Was it The End of the Tour, where he played with David Foster Wallace? It's such a great performance, really great movie. Um, but he was doing all of these dramatic films, and in the back of his head, he said, "Hey, if this doesn't work out." Which, by the way, he had How I Met Your Mother money, so he was okay for a time being. But if it doesn't work out, maybe one day I'll just be like a dad on a sitcom. And he was like, I was thinking like Full House or like those, you know, TGIF ABC shows. You know, I'll be the dad on a sitcom if all else fails. And he's like, you just never know. But then it is 10 years later, and he found Shrinking, which is produced and, you know, written by Bill Lawrence, who also did Scrubs and so many other great shows. And he said, well, listen, like, it's sort of a comedy, it's sort of a sitcom, you know, and I am playing a dad on Shrinking. And so, in a way, it did come to pass, but he said it's the best thing I've ever done. It's the thing that I've loved the most is working on this Apple TV Plus series, Shrinking. I just thought he was great. I mean, it was just so fascinating and fun to watch all of these creatives talk about their work. And it reminded me of, once again, of why I love this industry, why I think it is so worthwhile, these stories. And there's so many good stories being told, great stories being told. I mean, this is the first year, if you guys have listened to the show, where I think you can really hear in my voice at times where I love reality TV with a passion, and that's not going anywhere. But it has been the first time where I'm like, damn, you know, narrative storytelling is really grabbing at me lately. I mean, there's so many good. I was thinking on the ride home, I was like, God, I long for the days of just where it was just seemed like a bucket full of shitty shows, and now every show is a banger. Anyways, that's what I did tonight. What did you guys do? How are you? It's 17 minutes. I didn't even ask how you're doing. My God, I'm so sorry for being so rude. I hope you're okay. But let's get into some pop culture news before we get to our guest, okay? This is a fun story. Speaking of, you know, narrative storytelling and sitcoms, remember Parks and Rec with Amy Poehler? How fun that show was? Well, there was big news, if you're a Parks and Rec fan, is that they always joked about a show called Philly Justice. And it's kind of in the realm of Threat Level Midnight, if you're an Office fan. So Amy Poehler on her excellent podcast, Good Hang, teased Philly Justice again. And we actually have a trailer now for Philly Justice. So back in the day when they were filming Parks and Recreation, they actually shot a faux like trailer for the show Philly Justice. And it had Adam Scott, Rashida Jones, Paul Rudd, Nick Offerman, and Catherine Hahn, who have all gone on to do amazing work. Which, by the way, Rashida Jones, Quincy Jones' daughter, fantastic actor in her own right. She was on this season, the first episode of Black Mirror, and did a phenomenal job. But she's also married to, maybe, well, they have a kid together. I think they're married. Ezra Koenig, the lead singer of Vampire Weekend, which I always love. But she talked about this on the podcast Good Hang, and the tagline for this fake procedural television show, Philly Justice, reads, "Philadelphia has never been more in need of justice." But you can see this trailer online right now. Poehler said, "This one is for the fans. We heard you loud and clear." Philly Justice was conceived after looking at a cast photo while they were filming Parks and Rec during season 4. The inside joke spurred a parallel to very real David E. Kelly show that never actually made it to air. And the Parks and Rec writers room wrote a 20-page script for this fictional spinoff, Philly Justice, purely for the Parks and Rec cast to just to have fun. This was never meant to go to the public at all. And they don't even have a real plot for this, but it's just based off all of those criminal procedurals that we all grew up with. So I thought that was, and by the way, Amy Poehler, she did that podcast makes me feel so good when I listen to it. And there are certain people, entertainment people, that they're just big, bright balls of positive light. And Amy Poehler is one of those. You never hear an Amy Poehler is an asshole story. I love that. I love it because even like Tom Hanks, I always wanted to believe Tom Hanks was the nicest guy in the world. And then you sometimes hear like a negative Tom Hanks story here and there, and it will always rock me. I will remind you once again that my mother, she always didn't like Tom Hanks. She was like, I don't buy what that guy's selling. She was really weird about disliking Tom Hanks. And it always frustrated me so much because I was like, how can you not like Tom Hanks? What has Tom Hanks done to you except for making really solid movies? Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry he's not Richard Gere. My mom loved Richard Gere, thought he was very handsome, him and Michael Bolton. But like Tom Hanks, how can you not like Tom Hanks? But I think everybody loves Amy Poehler. So that's good to have one person. Okay, and more good news. I think, as a kid, weren't we all fans of Sesame Street? I mean, Sesame Street made an indelible impact on me as a child, and you want those things to continue. And it was announced today that Sesame Street will now be on Netflix, and they will be making new shows, new episodes of Sesame Street. Which this is great. I want Big Bird to live on. I want Bert and Ernie to live on. And yes, you can say West and Jesse from Summer House are new Bert and Ernie, but at the same time, I think Bert and Ernie are potentially less gay than Jesse. No, I'm joking. That's a stupid joke. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I love Sesame Street so much. Paula Kerger, who is the president and CEO of PBS, which is where it started, PBS, Public Broadcasting Service, and that was free. So my only issue with this is that Netflix, you should never have to pay for a children's show about education, which Sesame Street was. But I just want this to continue. So Netflix it is. Now it was before that on HBO Max, which was another place where you had to pay for it. But a couple of years ago, HBO Max decided to pull Sesame Street and not produce any new content, which was, I think, a very short-sighted. I think NBC. No, I think. Let me see how to say this. I think Warner Brothers Discovery, a company that I love, a company that produces so much content that I consume, but I thought this was short-sighted. I thought this was a mistake that they decided not to renew the contract. Now, PBS has had a tough go at the moment because our current president's administration has moved to cut funding from PBS and the Ready to Learn grant, which has historically been allocated to children's programming. And I think, I've learned from these shows. I remember learning things from Sesame Street. Like, these things are so important. So I'm so happy that they are going to have a home on Netflix and that they will be producing new episodes. So I love this intellectual property. In more TV news, we have news that the fourth season of the critically acclaimed comedy, the most dramatic comedy of all time, The Bear, the season 4 is going to premiere on Hulu and FX. All 10 episodes are going to premiere June 25th. We got our first trailer this week. Jeremy Allen White, who's won Emmys for this now, and just an amazing cast with Ayo Edebiri and all of these just amazing people. Season 3 ended on kind of a cliffhanger because the reviewer was coming in and it was going to the business was going to hinge on this reviewer. And it really was like, is it a good review, a bad review? Most people are saying it was a bad review. With the trailer, you see that the stress is still happening, that it is still the most dramatic place to eat. I mean, some of it, The Bear is ridiculous in some ways, even though it is so well done. And it has one of the best soundtracks because it's all music I love. But it was always just so intense and self-centered. This Carmy, Jeremy Allen White, so self-centered and he's so consumed, which is his character. but it's like, dude, he was doing like a different menu every day. I'm like, that's not, I don't even run a restaurant and I know that's not sustainable. Anyways, all 10 episodes will be back June 25th. This is another instance which I wish they wouldn't release all the episodes at once, so we would talk about it a little bit longer over the summer, but I am happy that it is back. So June 25th, put it on your calendars. We'll be airing on FX and then streaming on Hulu. Another sign of the summer is we are once again at the national conversation. What will be the song of the summer? Now, if I had my druthers, the song of the summer every year would be, you guessed it, Sheena Shea, Good as Gold. But since that is not eligible this year, this is what they are betting on. This is 2025 Global Songs of Summer Predictions by Spotify. This is already so scary because I know let's just go through these together and you tell me how many of these are even familiar. Okay, we got Ordinary, Alex Warren, don't know it. Nueve OL, Bad Bunny, I know that. Super by BB Tricks, don't know that artist. That could just be a made up thing. We've got Mystical Magical, Benson Boone. I know that song because of TikTok. What is the world coming to? We got All the Way by Big X The Plug and Bailey Zimmerman. Don't know that at all. Okay, Party for You, Charlie XCX. I do know that song, so that's in my running. We have My Darling by Cella, With You by Davido and Omale. What is going on? I don't know. I am so old. Nokia by Drake. Yeah Baba by Distinct and French Montana. Running Around by Eli Oaks. Summer Sweat by Hannah Cohen. Like Jenny, Blue Strips by Jesse Murph. Gnarly by Cat's Eye. How Bad Do You Want Me by Lady Gaga. I know Lady Gaga. Mutt, Leon Thomas. Dark Thoughts, Little Tekka. What Was That, Lord? I know that song. Shake Into the Max Fly Remix by Molai, Silent Addy, Skillabang, and Shinez. Are people just doing sounds as names for now? Shinseiya? Oh my God. Say My Name Remix, Morgan Seatree and Florence and the Machine. Okay. What I Want, Morgan Wallen and Tate McRae. You'll Be in My Heart, Nikki. Love Me Not, Raven Lene. Sally When the Wine Runs Out, Role Model. I know that song. Back to Friends, Somber, No One Noticed, The Marias. I know that song. Brunette, Tucker Wetmore. La Plena, W Sound 05 by W Sound Billet. And Ovi on the drums. Ovi on the drums? What the fuck? Show Me Love with Tyla by Wiz the MC, Bees and Honey, and Tyla. So these are all in competition for songs of the summer. I'm not seeing any Counting Crows on here. What is going on with the world? So those are your songs of the summer. Let me know who you would. Let me know. Hey guys, let me know what on that list is your song of the summer. Why can't we just include songs of the summer? Like, let's put some Marvin Gaye on there. Let's do some Boogie Down Productions. Oh my God, you guys, I'm almost finished with this book that Questlove wrote. And it's called Hip Hop is History. And it takes you through the last 50 years of hip hop from the origination, or when we speculate it was, when it started, which is usually it's the Sugar Hill Gang. That's where it started on most accounts. But this book is phenomenal. I would love Questlove has turned into a dream guest for me on this show. I would love if anybody's related to Questlove, please get the word out. But I love books like that because then I go back into Spotify and I just find all of these tracks. So I've been listening to a lot of rap music lately, and you forget how many periods of rap music there are. And like how many, because Diddy trial is happening right now, but that whole period of time with like Biggie and Diddy and Tupac. But before that, you had the Dre and the NWA. You also had the more commercial, sometimes comedic, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, Young MC, Tone Loc, and what it is now with like Lil Yachty and Yeet and all of these rap artist that my nephew listens to, but it has quite a history. Like the genre of rap has quite a history that I think doesn't get nearly the respect that it deserves, even though it makes so much money and is so popular. But like, what is your generation of rap music? You know, for me, it'll always be that early '90s or like right when the like Dre, the Chronic kicked in. Even though I also, as a little kid, that was the Young MC, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer days, which is not a very well respected time. But as a kid, those were bops. Those were the Sesame Street of rap right there for me. Okay, moving back to Bravo. I got a great comment on Spotify. You can leave comments there now. And Sids Schultz says Carl should have the cast of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives at Soft Bar. Carl, of course, from Summer House. She says he could have one of their crazy sodas on the menu. And then she gave an emoji, the crazy eye emoji with the tongue out. My dad loves that emoji, which is so sad for my dad. But yeah, that's a great idea, Sid Schultz. Carl needs to do a partnership with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives cast because they cannot drink alcohol. So Soft Bar, or they're not supposed to because of their religion. Carl should team up with them. I don't know if there's a conflict with Bravo, but somebody get this idea to Carl for Soft Bar. He teams up with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. This has Soft Bar written all over it. Or Carl, open Soft Bar in Utah. Like, we're opening it up in, like, what, Williamsburg? No, no, no. Move it to Utah. Move it to Provo or something, please. That thing would do mad business. Yeah, I said mad business, but I thought that was a phenomenal idea. I'll make sure I bring that up on the Summer House recap that we do on Friday as well, because that is going to, that's going to stick with me. It's going to haunt me for the rest of the week. So that is phenomenal. I love the listeners and the way their minds work. Listen, we had a Fox Force 5 reunion, or almost a semi-reunion, because Kyle Richards' daughter had an engagement party at Kyle's house. Mauricio was there. For some reason, the Love Island USA season 6 cast, they're filming their reality show. They were there. I don't know if cameras were there with them, but they were there. I'm like, what is the connection that the Love Island season 6 cast is hanging out with Mauricio and anyways, Teddy Mellencamp was there. Lisa Rinna was there. Kyle was there. Dorit was there. So Dorit and Kyle mending fences, which you have to do in the off season to participate in reality television. Unfortunately, Erica Jane wasn't there, but Kyle Richards said that they missed her in an Instagram comment. I will tell you though, I've always did not give a rip about the Fox Force 5. I thought it was like when somebody brands themselves a group and then it's just, to me, it's crickets in my head. I would rather see the Trace Amigas get back together than ever in a million years. Like, I feel nothing. Like, my pulse just goes flat when I hear Fox Force 5. But I'm like, oh, is Lisa Rinna trying to get back on the show after she's bad-mouthed the show for years now? Not on my watch, sister. No, 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 no. By the way, we probably will get Teddy Mellencamp. We'll get her in a friend of, probably not a full housewife, but a friend of. And I think, man, after the year she's had, we'll get through it together, right? And also, to be honest, if that is handled in the right way, that could actually be great in terms of cancer awareness, which is something that we should all be aware of. We shouldn't live under the fear of it, even though it is something that will touch every one of our lives. But if they handle that in the right way, it could be really potentially amazing, right? But yeah, I felt nothing when I saw this, but I wanted to bring it up to you guys just so I could potentially ruin your day. Also, did you see that Instagram post that Craig Conover posted? He was out in the Sur Alley. And I was like, what? What is Craig? I was like, oh, the Vanderpump Rules reboot. If they cast Craig, game over, man. But it's just one of those jarring images where you're like, you're not supposed to be in that alley, Craig. What are you doing? He's like all posing, like, yeah. No, it actually, I was like, Craig Conover on Sur, just kind of the possibilities were endless. But it was just like, I would love for Craig. Oh my God, Craig takes over for Peter as the manager of Sur for the reboot. Peter's like, I've worked here for the last 15 fucking years, and this is my chance, and Craig Conover just comes in and takes it? Damn it. But I saw that picture and I cracked up, which, by the way, remember in the Summer House finale tonight, they pick back up cameras for the last 15 minutes and you get to hear some details about the Paige and Craig breakup. So there is that. Also, in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills news, first season cast member Bozema St. John, she is working on a new show with Jimmy Fallon. It's called On Brand, and it is really kind of a show about marketing, about branding. And this series follows Jimmy Fallon as he starts a marketing agency and fills it with the most creative, clever, and competitive go-getters he can find. Oh my God, please tell me this isn't going to be all influencers. Which, by the way, that if you talk about branding, that's where it's really happening these days, is with influencers. Jimmy Fallon created the reality show after being inspired by his own vast experience in the marketing biz. He will also host and executive produce the series under his production company, Electric Hot Dog, solid name. Meanwhile, Bose will serve as an expert judge and mentor to the show's teams of creatives. Now, remember, Bose comes from a really heavy hitter background. She worked with companies like Netflix, I believe Uber. I mean, she really has done her time in huge corporations. So I could see where this, completely falls in line with what she could do. But it is kind of weird. She's only one season in on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and this is quite a jump. It's like, man, why don't you peddle some kind of face like face cream first, like the other housewives, or some shitty alcohol brand? I don't mean you, Kyle, but you know what I'm saying? Like Ramona Singer. Like we need Ramona Singer wine. Where's that? Like Bose is skipping over like 10 steps and now she has a show with Jimmy Fallon. And I'm just like, oh, but you know what it is too, is that I really do like Bose. I thought she had a phenomenal first season. I thought she had a little couple of dips at the reunion, but obviously so stellar. But when I see things like this so quickly in a housewife's career, it is so glaringly obvious that, oh my God, they are doing this to get to that next level in their careers. And I miss the old days of Housewives, which, that's how you can tell we're all getting older. We're always like, I miss the old days of Roni when Ramona would poop everywhere. Is that back in the old days, they were just like, Vicky was peddling insurance. They had normal jobs. They weren't, they wanted to be like successful and famous, but they didn't think the show was going to be that stepladder to that. It has become that in the last 7 or 8 years, but it didn't start like that. And when I saw this, I was happy for Bose, but at the same time, I was like, another person. It just shows you like the casting of these shows now are all people looking to get that next level in their career, instead of it just being about their lives and the lives that they have established. Now it's all about wanting more, more, more. And I think that's just obviously the nature of the world. I just kind of sometimes get bummed out about that. Now, I also had another Spotify comment, and if you are listening, Spotify commenter, I will do this on Friday. They wanted to know the top 3 Mission Impossible movies, in my opinion. And I want to think about that for a day, but I will talk about that on Friday because the new Mission Impossible movie comes out this Friday, which I definitely will be seeing this weekend. And I'm excited about that. And then finally, wanted to give a huge rest in peace to Norm. That's right. George Wendt from Cheers passed away today at the age of 76. Cheers is a beloved sitcom. It is it's been a comfort show of mine for decades now. I remember, I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but I remember when I was in a breakup of my marriage, I remember I would watch Cheers. I would watch Cheers nonstop. And it was just this perfect blend of comedy, amazing acting, amazing writing, directed by James Burrows. But Norm, George Wendt, the actor, he was just so good. You love this guy. He could deliver a one-liner like nobody's business. I mean, everybody on the Cheers cast was amazing, but he was in particular, just amazing. He played Norm Peterson for 11 seasons on the show Cheers. He had died peacefully at sleep in his home. His family in a statement said George was a doting family man, a well-loved friend and confidant to all of those lucky enough to have known him. He will be missed forever. The family has requested privacy during this time. He was born in Chicago, you guys, and he got to start in the 1970s with the famed improv and sketch group Second City, which was, based in his hometown. He even did a recurring sketch on Saturday Night Live called "The Bears." If you guys remember that, when Chris Farley, he was one of those, every time they did the sketch, he was in there. He also had a really amazing movie career as well. Dreamscape. Oh my God, 1984, Dreamscape. I haven't thought about that movie in a decade. He was in Fletch, Gung Ho, Never Say Die, Forever Young. He was in Spice World, for the love of God, in 1997. He also played the grumpy father of a son, Macaulay Culkin, who likes his music loud in Michael Jackson's 1991 black or white music video. Also, did you know that he is the uncle to actor Jason Sudeikis? That's wild. He is the only son of one of his 6 sisters. Wow, George Wendt had 6 sisters. Anyways, I haven't really poked around to see what the cast has said, but I'm curious because Ted Danson, Rhea Perlman, Kirstie Alley has unfortunately passed away as well. Woody Harrelson was on that cast. Kelsey Grammer was on that cast. But I just wanted to say that I was thinking about him today, and I need to do another Cheers rewatch. And the great thing about these is that these shows really do make an impact on our lives, and they make us laugh or they make us cry. And in his case, he made me laugh hysterically, but also there were so many touching scenes with him as well. Remember his wife that they never showed, Vera? Oh my gosh. But, a job well done for George Wendt. This work, I believe, will live on forever. Okay, let's get to our guest today. Our guest is director Nicole Rittenmeyer. I really, really enjoyed talking to her, but this is all about the Sherry Papini case. And like I said earlier, Sherry Papini participates in this docuseries. It airs on Discovery ID on Monday and Tuesday, 2 episodes on each night, and then also streaming on Max. But just to familiarize yourself with the case, if you haven't, she is a woman who disappeared on November 2nd, 2016, reportedly while out jogging a mile from her home in Redding, California. She was 34 years old at the time. She reappeared 3 weeks later on Thanksgiving Day, and she was reportedly freed by her captors at 4:30 that morning. She was wearing restraints when they found her. She was also had a branding on her that said Exodus. And she then went through many FBI, not interrogations, because they thought they were actually trying to look for these 2 Hispanic women who she said had kidnapped her and held her against her will. Now, it turns out she was at one of her ex-boyfriend's apartments, James. His name was James. And her husband, Keith, and her 2 kids, they were waiting for their mom and their wife to come home. And it turns out she had been with James this whole time. Now, the big news in this docuseries, which will blow you away, blew me away, she is now saying that the gentleman, Keith, her ex-boyfriend, that she had started up a relationship with, again, in some form, even though we cannot prove in what form, because they were using burner phones during this. She says that James has abducted her. He abducted her, not these 2 Hispanic women, and she wasn't voluntarily there. He abducted her, but she has never found the courage to speak out. And this is allegedly, it's her version of the story, but it's going to really be in the eye of the beholder if we believe that or not. And that's what I think is so interesting about this, because she paints this completely different story. She puts James under the microscope again, and who knows if any of this will be reinvestigated. But if you saw the Hulu docuseries on the Sherry Papini case last year, which was focused around Keith's perspective, and I think, rightfully so, if you had found this out about your wife, you would be livid and you wouldn't want your kids with her. But she is saying that this was all not the case, but also that Keith was a very a domineering, potentially abusive husband. So I found this I said this to Nicole during this. This was a very interesting watch, but it's sometimes a very frustrating watch. And I do like that it made me feel that way. I was frustrated at times. There were times where I did not believe Sherry. There were times when I was like, okay, I could potentially maybe go with you on there. But it's very interesting. And it talks about the concept of how far will you go when you're caught in a lie. And so this is a really good conversation. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think on Monday and Tuesday. And I'm sure we'll talk about this again in a future episode. So here she is, the director of this 4-part docuseries, Nicole Rittenmeyer. Have a great Wednesday, folks.